All right. Well, the Vikings' final stretch of practice at OTAs continues today. It wraps up June 3rd. ESPN's Kevin Seifert's latest article put the spotlight on tight end Irv Smith Jr. to play a big part in Kevin O'Connell's offense in 2022. The article has notes and quotes from O'Connell, who highlights Smith's kind of untapped physical talent and the flashes he has made on the field when healthy up until this point. And it also noted the specific time in his career. Now, entering year 4 is when some tight ends really learn to blossom and kind of make that next step in their careers. So, with so many different factors at play here, Reggie, he's 9 months removed from the knee injury. He's entering year 4 now. Tyler Conklin is gone. He signed with the Jets in free agency. He's flashed when healthy on the field. And most importantly, he's in an offensive-friendly system for the first time with an offensive-minded coach. So you've been out at practice these last few weeks. You've mentioned Irv Smith. He's a full go. What can we expect from him, in your opinion, realistically in 2022 in this offense under Kevin O'Connell?
I think if he's healthy, I think he can produce big numbers for this offense. And, you look at what the Rams have done over the last few years with Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett. I think you kind of see what the blueprint is for a tight end in this offense. And honestly, you look at the roster and you don't really know what you're going to get from anybody else. The only, real proven guy at that position is Irv Smith. And so I think the reps are there for him, and I think the playing time is going to be there for him. It's time for him to go ball out because he's going to be the guy at tight end. This offense, you expect Kevin O'Connell to spread them out, be wide open, get guys in positions to succeed on the field. And I think Smith is going to be, the biggest benefactor of that. Because, we've seen what he can do. He has plenty of potential. And it was tough seeing him, go down with that injury last year and pretty much lose out on the whole season. I saw him up in the press box a couple times, just kind of on the crutches. And you're just like, man, that guy's supposed to be out there right now. And he could have made a considerable difference, especially on some of those third downs where the Vikings struggled to get the 10 yards or to get the first down. Maybe if he was out there as another threat on that offense with Conklin, maybe they're able to spread it out a little bit, stretch the field a little bit more, spacing a little bit more to kind of get some of those third downs converted. And, there's a little bit of pressure on him this season just because it's okay, you got to show and prove after missing all of last year with an injury, and also got to show and prove because he's a guy that is the guy. And you're just like, well, they didn't really sign anyone notable, to be a pass catcher at the tight end position. He's the guy. And so there's pressure to be had when you're looking at someone like that to produce. But I think he should take it and run with it and really do what it is that we know that he's capable of doing. I think this has the potential of being a breakout season for him.
Yeah, we always talk about how important coaching is on this show and how the best coaches, they don't come in and just force feed guys to learn their system. But in today's new age, they instead find ways to maximize their players' best skill sets. And although O'Connell is best known for, the 11 personnel, spreading them out, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers, Reggie, you still got to have a tight end. Just because they're going to go a lot of wide receiver heavy personnel doesn't mean you can just not have a tight end. You still got to pose a threat to catch, get up the seam on linebackers and safeties, and block. And it actually says in the article, Smith, when healthy, was actually one of the better run blocking tight ends in the league, something that not a lot of people really talk about when discussing his skill set. And I think O'Connell is going to find creative ways to get Smith involved in this offense one way or another. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see him not just hand in the dirt in line as kind of that blocking tight end, but also standing up in the slot or even out wide. Things he did at Alabama coming out of college, he was very successful at as a natural pass catcher and route runner for such a big dude. Remember, not having him out there on critical third downs last year. Tyler Conklin exceeded expectations as a fifth-round tight end, a developmental guy. He went out and got paid. Everybody was really happy to see that in the Vikings organization and fan base. But you're talking about Irv Smith was a top 50 pick for a reason. Just raw talent. This guy does a lot of different things and offers a unique skill set that a guy like Tyler Conklin simply can't. So
I think what's cool too is this stat from Seifert's article. You know, Kirk Cousins him and Conklin were like BFFs last season.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. Kirk really loves throwing to his tight ends. And this stat says since Kirk became a full-time NFL starter in 2015, he's number 4. He ranks number 4 in NFL quarterbacks with tight end targets and touchdowns thrown to tight ends. Like, he's targeted tight ends 810 times since he's become a starter in 2015. And he's thrown 49 touchdowns to tight ends since 2015. Like, you think this guy wants to throw to Irv Smith? That's why they were getting that extra work in last week when I was watching on the field at OTAs. They were kind of getting some extra work in with him and the tight ends because, you know, those are his people. Kirk's like, these are my guys. I love these guys.
Hey, Vikings didn't draft a tight end until the 7th round. Nick Muse from South Carolina. Irv Smith has to be healthy. I mean, because otherwise, we talked about a few weeks ago after the draft, they could be in trouble. Johnny Munt was brought in from the Rams. Zach Davidson was a 7th round, kind of a developmental pick from SMU. He's still raw and untapped. Elson, yep. But Irv Smith, clearly the top dog here. And if he were to go down, we talked about it, maybe you see C.J. Ham start to get in the mix there at fullback. Maybe he's moving around to tight end in some different positions because they just don't have the depth. Yeah, H-back. They just don't have the depth right now. From ESPN to CBS, Jordan Dajani from CBS Sports named 5 teams that will surprise many and exceed expectations in 2022. Wouldn't you know it? The Minnesota Vikings were 3rd on that list with the Dolphins, Saints, Steelers, and Raiders. Here's the deal. Their over-under win total is 9. Their odds to make the playoffs is basically a coin flip, maybe just a little under. It's minus 125. So it's like 55-45. They won't, but call it a coin flip here. He likes both those bets in large part because of Kevin O'Connell possibly being the next Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, and in a new pass-happy league where it's all about the first team to score 40 points. The Vikings made the right decision in bringing him in next in line of the offensive mind of coaches, not to mention the offensive foundation that he's, basically inheriting. Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins. Reggie, are these expectations, though, starting to get a little bit out of hand? I mean, aren't we supposed to, give this guy a season first before we crown him? Where do you stand with the Vikings kind of flying under the radar and then exceeding the public's and Vegas's expectations this year as the Packers are once again heavy favorites to win the NFC North?
No, sir, brother. Ain't no flying under the radar, okay? Like, do you see the moves that the Vikings have made this offseason have shown that they are not trying to fly under the radar. They're going for it. Like, they're trying to win the division. They're trying to get to the playoffs. They're trying to get to the playoffs and see what happens. Like, this team is going for it. I mean, you re-sign Kirk Cousins to an extension. You sign Harrison Phillips, Za'Darius Smith. You go all in, talking about splitting Dalvin out wide and, finding ways to get him the football. And you hire this offensive-minded head coach, which basically, from last year to this year, basically says like, hey, like, we felt like our offense wasn't up to par. And we felt like if we had a better offensive-minded coach in here, that maybe we could have exceeded far past. I mean, because, the article says it and everybody knows it. I mean, they went 8-9, but like, this team was so much better than 8-9 because a lot of those games you coin flip. And if it goes the other way, you're talking about a 13, maybe 14 win season from the Vikings. And now, you're talking about maybe not even having a coaching change at this point. And so you had the coaching change. And I think, the over-under win total at 9, I think that's perfectly fair. Like, the Vikings are not going to sneak up on anyone. Like, I think there's expectations set that this team should be competing with some of the better teams in the league, and they should be competing for a playoff spot. And you talk about not knowing what to expect from Green Bay. You're like, man, this team should be challenging for the division as well. And you've come in, you've remade the roster in your own image, Kwesi's image, Coach O'Connell's image. And, you're out here trying to hit the ground running, installing this new offense that's going to hopefully help the offense, stay on the field longer and produce, be more efficient than they were last year. And I think the expectations are fair for this team to succeed this year, and they got to bring it. And, we've seen some of these first-time head coaches, especially under the Sean McVay tree, and starting with Sean McVay himself. Sean McVay came in first year leading the Rams to the playoffs. Kyle Shanahan had heavy expectations on him, and he's, already gotten the 49ers to the Super Bowl. Zach Taylor, third year. And you're talking about a team that's playing in the Super Bowl. Like, the expectations are set for Kevin O'Connell, and with the moves that they made, everybody's talking about how they have basically decided to run it back. Well, okay, like, re-sign Patrick Peterson, get some of this depth taken care of in the draft. As we talked about yesterday, you're supplementing some of the guys that are already here, with some new guys, outside of the draft, Jordan Hicks, and now you get Lewis Seen, Andrew Booth Jr., Ed Ingram to supplement some of the guys that are already here. Like, it's time to go. And they're not sneaking up on anybody this season.
The first thing every team does at the beginning of the year, right around this time, it's not the goal's not Super Bowl, it's not conference championship, it's win the division first and foremost. That's the thing. And the article does point out, as well as the Vikings' chances, that the NFC North isn't exactly the strongest team top to bottom, with the Bears and Lions likely shooting for 500 at best. And then the Packers, you mentioned it, possibly taking a little step back here without Devontae Adams this season. Just a little bit more food for thought. I mean, look at some of the other divisions out there. Can you imagine being in the AFC West? Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders,
Good luck.
Chargers. Somebody's got to be in last. Somebody has to get last place in that division. I don't know.
Good luck.
AFC North, Ravens, Bengals just went to the Super Bowl. Browns with Deshaun Watson. Steelers are always competitive. Some of these divisions are crazy, man. So, yeah, obviously the Packers are the heavy favorite. Vikings, though, hopefully nipping at their heels for sure.